ask just quickly, why don't the younger generation know how to use technology? We just interviewed a bunch of people for a junior estimator role that we've got going. So these are people between the ages of 18 and 21. And when we asked any of them, have they used Excel before? They all said no. And we said, what about Microsoft Word? They said, no, haven't used it before. We said, well, what about typing? Can you touch type? No, I can't touch type. And I thought that as generations got younger and younger, they got better and better with technology. But is it the younger generation now, they just spend a lot of times on their phones, but they don't actually know how to use computers at all? It's honestly been mind-boggling to me, because I know even my generation, right, a lot of people in my generation can touch type. We've used Excel, we've used Word, we've used PowerPoint, we've used all these bits of software that you need to know how to use to operate in the world. So I don't know, maybe we're talking to the wrong people, but can anyone else chime in here? Because that's been my experience so far with the younger generation.
I think this is such an interesting conversation. As somebody who was born in 1993, in the age where we were introduced to computers, cell phones, like that was our generation. However, before that, we are the same generation who was playing outside, riding bikes, drinking from the water hose, actually dancing, stuff like that. Now, it's a different world now. And with all that being said, I actually don't think that this is an intelligence issue with Gen Alpha and or Gen Z. What I think this is a lack of exposure, if you will. I don't think that Gen Alpha and Gen Z had the same environments many of us who are maybe millennials or some of Gen X or maybe even the boomers might be used to. And I wouldn't even say the boomers because a lot of them don't know how to use technology. Let's just be for real. But between the millennials and Gen X, I remember going to school and having to type actual essays, actually having to write essays, and so did a lot of people in Gen X. They had to do a lot of this for work. And then also their children, which would be us, the millennials, were growing up on using these computers in school. They were teaching us how to use Excel. They were teaching us how to use Microsoft Word, Google Docs. We didn't grow up with apps. And that's the thing that I think is one of the biggest differences. Gen Z and Gen Alpha have grown up in an environment where they were either using a smartphone or a tablet. And the thing about it is, I think they're really good at using these apps. They're great at using CapCut, great at using TikTok. Like, they know how to navigate those apps. But when you tell them to do something like create a spreadsheet or, hey, type this document in Microsoft Word, they're lost. They're like probably looking for ChatGPT. Like, where's ChatGPT? Meanwhile, the millennials and Gen X and some of the boomers might be a lot more accustomed to doing things like that because of the environment we grew up in. We didn't grow up with apps. But on the opposite side, like, there's a lot of nuance to the situation. Gen Z and Gen Alpha didn't grow up using Microsoft Word. They weren't using Excel spreadsheets. This wasn't a common practice for them. So I kind of feel like, to an extent, because of the way society changed, they just weren't given the same tools, if that makes sense. A lot of the resources and tools that a lot of the millennials, Gen X, and the boomers use is because there was no other option. And even when we were introduced to a lot of this new technology, we were trying to figure out how to use it. It was being shown also to the kids. It was being implemented in the schools. I don't know if they're in the schools now using Microsoft Word. I don't even know if the kids write papers in schools anymore. Like, there are schools that have gone completely digital and they have laptops. They don't even come to school with a notepad in some of these schools. They're just like, oh, my computer is my notepad. This is different. Also, when I was in school, they were teaching us how to type. Like, they were even assess how many words you could type per minute. I'm saying all this to point out the change of how things are done. And y'all tell me down below, do they even test that in school? I don't think they do. I don't think they do. With AI and automation and all these other things coming in the same time, when Gen Z and Gen Alpha are trying to get their footing and understand all this technology as well, I don't believe they're going to be learning shortcuts on how to perform a certain function on Microsoft Excel. I just don't think it's going to happen. And what's happening is the jobs are like, hey, we need people who are good at this. And they're like, what is that? What is that? 6'7"? Like, what is that? And us older generations, like, are looking at them like, what do you mean you don't know how to work this stuff? You don't know how to make a Word document? It's a different time, y'all. It really is a different time. But this is a very interesting conversation because it is the older generation, boomers, Gen X, and millennials, that are looking to hire the younger generations like Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And these are the actual functions that are still being used in a lot of corporate settings that a lot of these older generations have mastered. And you would just think, yeah, the newer generation is better with technology. They're on it all the time. They are not using it in the same way, in my opinion. A lot of Gen Z and Gen Alpha that actually want to work certain jobs, they're just going to have to adapt. And it's really not going to matter that they don't know how to use it, because at the end of the day, they are competing with people who know how to use these things. And that is a skill that a lot of employers are looking for. The truth is, you either kind of get with it or you get lost. Now, if you have an employer that isn't looking for those things, then that's not a problem. But if you are, it would look like Gen Z or Gen Alpha just wouldn't get the job. They just wouldn't get it, because that's what the job might need you to do, and you just don't know how to do it. Also, in your spare time, there are a lot of free courses on YouTube, TikTok, all these social media sites that can walk you through how to use a lot of these resources like Microsoft Office, Google Docs, etc. Whatever you need to use in order to be proficient at your job. The other problem I think that is happening at the same time is perhaps they might not want to do that. They might not want to do that, and the ones who don't will get left behind. Or technology will evolve and maybe they can get with that and be of use to certain jobs that want to hire them because they've learned that new thing, whatever that new thing is, like AI. Lots of jobs looking for anybody who knows how to use it correctly to benefit a business. But if you're only really using the technology for the funsy stuff like TikTok, doom scrolling on social media, and not for all of the information that is at your fingertips, this is what I think ends up happening. The Gen Z and Gen Alpha generation was taught to get on these apps and these iPads as a distraction, not as an actual tool for very useful things. This is the thing that they get on when their parents are trying to get them out their face. That's the thing that computers and tablets are used for. The way that I, in my millennial brain, see a computer, I see it as a smart machine that can be used to do a plethora of things. Some of those things way better than I could do myself. I believe that's how many of us were taught to use a computer. Not just, oh, this is something we watch Netflix on. That is actually how some people see a laptop or a computer. They actually don't see it as a computer. Even here, when we look at the actual Webster dictionary definition of the word computer, it says one that computes, specifically a programmable, usually electronic device that can store, retrieve, and process data. Now, ask yourself, do you think that's what Gen Z and Gen Alpha are using a computer for, to do these things? Or do you think it's being used as a TV screen, a monitor to see the stuff going on social media? I don't see much computing. That's my point that I'm trying to make. I don't see much computing. You actually have to tell the computer what you want it to do. And in order to do that and use the full functions and range that a computer or a laptop or a MacBook has to offer, you have to understand how to use the most basic of functions. And then you kind of move up from there. But I'm not sure that they're being taught the basic functions. Like, are they? Y'all tell me down below. Who is teaching Gen Alpha and Gen Z the computing functions of a laptop? Like, everybody want to be MacBook down. They want to have love a good Apple product. They'll rush out and get the latest iPhone. You know, every year, same 1-2 step. Do they know how to use that computer? Do they know how to use the newest iPhone they just bought? All these new functions that come out every year, or do they just get it to say that they got the new thing? We have to start having serious conversations. And also, on that note, I don't understand people that do that. Why upgrade to the newest device if you haven't understood or tried to even understand the functions and new additions that you currently have on your current smartphone? What would make you want to go up to the next level? Except the fact that it's just new and everybody knows it's new. It doesn't make any sense to me. Even when people do that when it comes to laptops, if you don't know nothing about storage, RAM, gigabytes, display resolution, and you just getting laptops just to get the laptop, what is the point? Except you just want to spend money. But I digress. I wanted to read some of his comments because this video sparked quite the debate on TikTok. So much so that this video ended up getting 1.8 million views on TikTok. So people definitely have a lot to say about this. And then when I click down here real quick to see what he had in his description, he's saying here, it's not their fault, referring to the bunch of 21-year-olds that were looking to get the job. He's even pointing out they are phone native, not computer native. So they're pretty much computer illiterate, is what he's saying. Swipe, tap, scroll. But a keyboard and a spreadsheet, foreign. And he also goes on to say that schools stopped teaching typing. Did they really? Somebody else down here is saying they don't teach typing anymore. That might be part of the problem. And that's what I was saying. What is being taught to the kids? And parents get me up to speed. Do y'all even know? Lord have mercy. Anyway, this comment here says, what is your Excel experience? I'm 18. In what possible situation would I be using Excel for anything? And this comment replied saying, don't you use it in school for making graphs or stats? They said, no, no, we don't use it in school at all. I'm 22 and never used it. And someone is echoing my exact thoughts, saying, now it's understandable. So we are demanding skills you had no chance to learn. We need to do some work to understand what is the typical skill set of Gen Z. That is a good question. What is the typical skill set that Gen Z has? They go on to say, HR should do better to match the job descriptions to current skill sets. I don't know about that. HR is going to be looking out for the company. HR might need people who know how to use a spreadsheet. You can't always be like, Gen Z don't know how to do that, so we just ain't going to do. Like, if the company needs that, then that's what you need. They either have to figure it out or they're not. Like I said, they will have to get with it or get lost. Because some of their generation, instead of doom scrolling and wasting time, when they see they're lacking in certain areas, are going to take the time to get on the free resources like YouTube and get on Excel and get on Google Docs and things like that. Try to figure out the keystrokes and the shortcuts. Somebody's going to do it because they want it more. And that's just what it is. And if they aren't willing to do that, then it just might not be the field for them. It just might not be for them. And that is okay. But the standard and the bar just can't get lowered for certain roles that require certain things just because certain people don't know how to use that. You're just not going to get hired. You're just not going to get hired. And I think people need to be honest about that. That's why they're being overlooked for the job. Now, and somebody commented here, Microsoft is too expensive to have at home anymore. Everybody uses Google because it's free. You know what? I can totally understand where this person is coming from because I love me a good old free Google Doc, Word document. I got Google Docs and essays from when I was in middle school. No lie. They're still saved under the same name. I could pull it up right now. And this was way before AI, way before all of that. But I tell you what, spell check was my best friend. Spell check was my best friend. That's if you know, you know. Others saying, you think people are using Excel in their free time for fun? Hey, if they want a job in certain areas that need people who know how to use Excel. If they want that job, maybe. Here's a good example. A lot of people want to know how to edit. They want to know how to make videos. When are they taking the time to learn how to edit these videos and to figure it out? If they want to be a content creator, for example, right? When are they doing it? It's in their free time. A lot of people in this generation, especially Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they're looking at Streamer University. They're like, I want to be Kai Cenat. I want to be Duke Dennis. That's what they're saying. You don't think they're going to have to, in their spare time, figure out how to use the software to even set up the stream, understand the devices, understand the tech? That is part of a lot of jobs, is understanding the software and the tech that come along with the type of job you want to have. If you don't want to do it in your free time and you're waiting on somebody to pay you first, to teach you, show you the ropes and everything, you might get left. There is somebody doing it in their free time that just off of the fact that they want it, that don't need to be told, to be showed. They are showing up with skills that maybe nobody taught them in school. And they're going to outdo the person who doesn't, the one who doesn't want to do it in their free time. They are. But to be fair, if Gen Alpha and Gen Z is saying, hey, we were taught to use Google because Microsoft, maybe they don't use that in schools anymore. Okay, do you know how to do that? If the answer is, oh, I don't know, you got to sell it. You got to be able to sell yourself for these positions. You can't just go in there like, I don't know how to do none of that. None of it. None of the stuff you need me to know how to do for this job, I don't know how to do it. They just didn't teach us. What they supposed to do with that? Honestly. Now, this lady right here is reacting to the man's video that we just seen, talking about the computer literacy issue that's allegedly going on with Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And this is what she had to say.
This is a real thing, and I can attest to it.
Can I ask just quickly, why don't the younger generation know how to use technology?
So I was a guest teacher at a school, and mind you, this school is like a private school, but not like Christian private, like money private. I was teaching a film course there. Now, if you know anything about film, one, you need a computer, but two, you need to know file systems. Like, you need to know where you're saving your project and how to access that project again. When I tell you there are high schoolers who don't know how to open a folder, I said, hey, open that folder on your desktop. They said, how do I open this? Double click. And they don't know how to double click either.
Now, it's worse than I thought. It's actually worse than I thought. Allegedly, can't confirm nor deny because I'm not in them folks' school because I couldn't do teaching. What? Do y'all see what's going on? Anyway, hearing that, I'm kind of drawn back. I'm kind of like, you actually don't know how to click with the mouse. This is giving my mom. No shade towards, but it is. I expect certain people in certain industries, like if you never had to work with a computer your whole life and you get a computer. Look, I was fighting for my life, trying to explain how to set up a laptop to my mother. She's Gen X. Now, a lot of them, they ain't never used no computer. And it's like you talking a whole nother language. So I can only imagine how it feels as, like, I'm assuming she's probably a millennial, telling someone of the younger generation, click the file to open it up. Because in our heads, we're thinking, well, we were taught this stuff. From what I'm gathering here, it seems like they're not being taught these things. They're not. Like, I don't expect them to hop off the porch at 18 knowing how to do these things if they were never taught. But at some point, like when they hit about 22, 23, if they still don't know it, and there's reoccurring theme that they're seeing of, hey, like I keep getting asked about this in my industry. At some point, the accountability and the lack of not knowing comes from them, right? But at the same time, it's almost unbelievable to hear that this is what is going on. And I honestly feel bad for us millennials because then it's like you're trying to explain the stuff to your parents. Some of them might be a little bit more tech savvy than others. And then you're also going to have to explain these sort of things to your kids and or your grandkids. My. We just got our hands full. Give us a break.
And they don't know how to double click either. They had no idea just the basic functions of a computer outside of YouTube and watching videos.
That's what I said. They know all about, how to get on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, that they got it down pat. But the functions of a computer is where we draw on the line. That's like, no, we know how to use it for fun. And to be fair, can we really blame them? Because they were indoctrinized to use it for fun, not for computing purposes, which is what a computer is. You are the driver of the car. It is merely the vehicle doing exactly what you told it to do. But if you don't know how to use the thing, what good is that? That's like getting in a car and you don't know how to drive and you just sitting there like, it's a nice car. Like, I come get in this car. The dog's in front of me in the fence. I just get in this car and stare across the street because I'm not using it to go nowhere. I'm not using it to do nothing. I'm not telling it what to do by driving the car. I'm just sitting in the car, looking through the window like, what a day. Like, that is what's really going on. It's really blowing my mind that perhaps the idea that is supposed to be used in this way may not even be clicking.
You're not getting it. It's not clocking to you.
To Gen Z or Gen Alpha. It's probably not even clicking because they weren't taught that's what it was for. And now they're filling out these job applications and stuff like that. And they're like, wait a minute, man. It's really sad. They honestly was set up. They were set up to fail. If that is what is in fact going on in the schools, they were set up to fail.
And I blame this on a lot of things. One, there's no computer class anymore. We used to believe that computer class was great for kids who didn't have access to a computer at home. But if you had access to a computer at home, you would know how to use it, right?
Right.
No. Another thing that's wrong is most of these kids have Chromebooks. And while Chromebooks can be great and they are a cheap option, that is not a good computer if you're trying to do business things on there. Chromebooks are essential for Chrome, for scouring the internet. But a computer is more than a tool just to use the internet. Computer is a way to make things, to save things, to interact with things, to have servers. And then I would argue that the third thing is that they've never had to integrate it into their everyday life. None of them have ever had to type a paper and print it out without using Google. Most people don't have Word anymore. Most people don't have Excel. They have Google Sheets, and they have Google Docs, and they do everything on Google. Nothing wrong with that, okay? Especially because it's free.
Right.
But when you get into a higher echelon of life, aka, I don't know, post grad, after high school, you need to know how to use a computer, all types of operating systems, all types of different things like file sharing and PDFs, and how to transfer something from a JPEG to a PNG. You need to know that. So yes, kids know how to watch YouTube on a laptop. Kids know how to airdrop things on a laptop, but to utilize a laptop or a computer for work, they have no idea, because they've never been taught.
I couldn't agree more. She was on point. I give her props. Like, she articulated that so good. And I'm glad y'all in the comments are saying the same thing. Y'all are saying it's because they were given tablets and only use apps. And that's exactly what I was saying. And I wanted to highlight this comment here. It says, I am stunned by so many things younger people have not been taught or not taught well, like cursive, handwriting, reading an analog clock, counting money backwards, writing a check, mailing a letter, phone numbers, basic map reading, or even finding a book in the library. Now, I'm not going to act stunned that a lot of people in a particular generation don't know how to do that if they were never taught in that generation how to do that. I do think they should have been taught how to do that. Some of these things definitely were, in my opinion, things that if not taught in school, the parents should have been teaching. First off, the parents are the first teacher. That should be the main teacher. But what ends up happening is you go to school, you get taught mostly everything from the school. And if they didn't teach you it, you just ain't gonna learn. And I truly believe that certain people know that. I'm not gonna say who. Certain people know that if it's not taught in the school, you're not going to teach the kids, because what's going to happen next is you're going to say, with what time? I work full time. I work 2 jobs, blah, blah. And understandable, because a lot of people are doing a lot to try to get by. But that's my point. So if they don't teach the kids certain things, and you may or may not be able to teach your children, who is teaching the children? Do the children know what they should be taught? Like, if nobody told them what cursive is, do they know what cursive is? No. So we can't then look at them and say, why don't you know how to write in cursive? They looking at you like, what's cursive? They actually don't know what you're talking about. It's foreign to them. It was never brought up. It was never even a conversation that was had. You see what I mean? And I actually feel bad. I feel bad because this is the future. All right, Gen Alpha and Gen Z are the future. And we see what's going on. That's scary. It is. It's scary. Not knowing how to mail a letter, you ain't gonna do too well in business. And I know a lot of stuff is digital, but in the event that you might need to do something like that, you might want to be a business owner. You might want to, understand how to ship stuff out. You can't do that if you don't know how to mail a letter. That's like the most basic part. And then don't have social anxiety. Oh my, don't even get me on that. A lot of the newer generation has social anxiety and they don't want to ask for help. They're not used to interacting with people. So when they don't know how to do something, they sometimes have an interesting approach about how they're trying to get help. And I also blame social media for that, because lack of human interaction is also something that might be contributing to that issue. But it's just the whole list of, because this didn't happen, this is what's happening. This comment here says, I worked for a large state school. Last year's freshmen struggled to save a Word document and upload it for an assignment. We received screenshots from some because they couldn't figure it out. Whew. What the heck? Now, this lady, interestingly enough, posted this video in 2024, in February 2024, actually. And she was talking about Gen Z and Gen Alpha and the computer illiteracy issue that she was seeing back then. Ma'am, you were ahead of your time, first off, let me say. But let's see what she has to say.
I just learned something that suddenly makes the behavior of every single person on this app under 20 make way more sense. Now, before any of y'all come for me, I want to preface this by saying that this is not a diss against you. I'm 24. I'm not trying to be like, oh, kids these days. I get it. The system has severely failed you. I'm 100% in a very similar boat. I empathize with y'all, okay? Normally, I would say that even though the educational system has failed you, it is still your duty as a person to, learn outside of that, to continue to learn as you grow, to just, become a better person in general.
I'm glad she said that. Exactly. Because at some point, you can't be 40 talking about, I don't know how to read a clock. It's too time consuming, just, you see what I mean? At some point, you either wanted to do it or you didn't.
That's how growth and personal development work. As a person to, learn outside of that, to continue to learn as you grow, to just, become a better person in general. That's how growth and personal development works. However, I've realized that apparently y'all just were never given the tools, that they were never thought to be given to you to do this. And please feel free to tell me how true or untrue this is in the comments. I'm genuinely interested and curious. I was reading this post about a teacher who does a lot of online tutoring for kids in middle school to high school or whatever, right? And she was saying that absolutely all of them are completely computer illiterate. They only understand how things work through apps. She was explaining how these kids didn't understand the differences between an upload or a download, or a desktop and a laptop computer. Or when she was trying to tell a girl to, click on a screen share icon, she actually physically picked up the mouse and tried to move it. Like the early days of the internet. But it's so unfathomable, it's been around for so long. We all know to slide it, and when she was trying to explain to her, the girl was just so confused and ended up using the touchpad because it was a laptop, because it was similar to a phone. And a bunch of teachers were sounding off saying that, yeah, a lot of kids don't even know how to type properly. A lot of them don't know how to search or use search engines. They don't know how to use the internet. They only know how to use apps, which makes so much sense, but is also so depressing because it explains one of the most annoying phenomena on this app, and it just makes me deeply sad. For example, I write a lot and I use TikTok to promote my writing, but on so many of the videos where I promote this, a lot of people don't understand that it's a fanfic that I'm writing, or even though I'll have several different places where I say the name of the fic, who wrote it, where you can find it, that sort of thing, the comment section will still be flooded with people asking where they can read it or where the link is, but I can't post direct links in TikTok.
You can say it in a video, you can post the link, you can do all of those things, and no lie, because I've done it, somebody will still ask you, what is the something? They're not trolling. I truly feel we live in a world where some people actually aren't going to do the thing you're trying to get them to do unless you specifically spoon feed it to them specifically. They don't want what you were trying to give to the group or to the audience. They want you to specifically tell them the thing that they want to know, even if you've already told them in a video, in a link, in a newsletter. They don't want it that way. All of the resources, because those are resources. That's what I think of when I hear those things. I hear a resource. They don't want your resource. They want you to reply to them specifically to tell them what they need or want. What can get hectic is thousands of people doing that with the idea that even though you did it already and gave them what they needed, it's not enough. And that's scary. I think when many of us were taught how to use a computer, we were taught how to use it to be resourceful or to understand how we use it in order to achieve whatever our goal is, whether that might be making a budget, a spreadsheet, etc., learning software on it to help us in whatever the thing is. But a lot of people don't even think when somebody is speaking that is a resource, but it is. That should be your first source. Is just paying attention to hear, did you even hear the information that you might be asking about? They don't do that. Now, I can totally understand, hey, maybe I might not have heard it, but what I'm saying is on a larger scale, that is more common than not. You can literally say, I'm putting the link to blah, 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 blah down here. And somebody will say, what is the something? Where can I get it? And there is a lack of digital literacy and media literacy, for sure.
And I always, and do, find that extremely annoying. It's so frustrating because it's in the comments, it's in the title of the video, it is in the description, it is in the playlist, it is in my bio, it is in so many places. Use your gut brain. But those skills to use the brain with were never taught to you.
That's the real problem. You weren't forced, many people were not forced to be resourceful, to gather all the information and then say, what is missing? Something's missing here. What else do I need in order to do whatever it is I'm trying to do? Or what was left out that now I must question because I'm out of resources, I have hit a wall. That's not happening now. It's almost like they're just blurting out the first thing well, and it's interesting to see the changes. I don't know, does it have a lot to do with the instant gratification you can get online? Just everything is so fast nowadays. You actually had to research or go to a library back in the day if you really wanted to know some information. But that's why I see a computer and I see Google and I have YouTube as a resource. Like, we have all these things and I'm always just like, man, this stuff is just laid out. Like, any question that you really want to know, you don't have to find somebody who knows this stuff anymore, that you personally know, to go talk to them, because that's what we had to do. We had to know somebody who knew about a lot of these things. But now with the internet, you're able to reach people that you probably would never speak to, and you're able to get a lot of information from these people. And that's why I love using the internet as a resource, as somebody who grew up when the first computers came about and when we had dial-up and AOL and all of that. Like, if you know, you know. It's really been a great tool to learn, but I don't think, unfortunately, many people saw it that way. They seen it more like, oh, this is something I can play games on, and if that's what you want to do, that's your choice. But so much stuff, and I only say this to encourage y'all, it's so many useful ways to utilize all these new resources, and it's just crazy.
Of course, so many people would be asking for the link because they don't understand how to search for it themselves. And on top of that, critical thinking, reading comprehension, and just thought skills have been going down significantly over the past decade or so. Like, for example, in Canada, which is where I'm from, 49% of adults have a reading level that is under high school level. In the United States, 54% of adults have a reading level under that of a grade 6.
And this is why I don't like to argue with people. It's that I hear that statistic all the time, that most people don't comprehend at a 6th grade reading level. And I'm just like, and these be the people that a lot of people be arguing with in the comments. Like, now, no offense to them, but I was in honors English, honors in high school. So hearing that and just understanding, going through your day, over half of the adults might meet that statistic. You know, it just at least makes you think twice. Like, it just makes you think twice. Like, you know what? If we even have a conversation, where is it really going to go? You know? Yeah, honestly.
So that means that people can read, they can understand things, but they can't fully comprehend it. They can't connect things, they can't make these connections, they can't search for deeper meanings, they can't use basic skills.
That's why I keep stuff surface level with a lot of people. I don't even like to talk to many people. The conversation get too deep. It's like the lights is on, but nobody's home. It's like you just see them clock out. They gone. Like, we lost one. Dang, lost another one. Y'all tell me, does that happen to you? Then also, a lot of people don't have good conversational skills. Not good at going deeper, if that makes sense.
Because they're not being taught. I don't blame the teachers for this, by the way. There's so much out there, the system in and of itself. This is a whole bigger problem. I'm just noticing the outcome of it. So even if you did recognize that, okay, I'm not as good with the internet as I maybe should be, especially in regard to safety, but that's a whole other conversation, you wouldn't have the skills or even the idea of how to get better at doing that because it's not taught to you or even suggested. And like, it's great that now they're teaching coding to kindergartners, but they're also not teaching them what it means to actually search for something, how you know something is or isn't safe to download. I just think it's so interesting that they're teaching coding because there's such a high demand for it in like the career force, but they're not teaching things like critical understanding of literacy and being able to pick out like motivation and propaganda, as well as actual internet safety.
And also, and let me add this to the bucket. With social media, a lot of people don't understand when they're being sold something, even being sold a dream. People love to sell dreams online. They love to sell a dream. And a lot of people can't see it. They can't see agendas that people might have. They actually can't see it. You think your favorite influencer actually has 5,000 products that are, oh my God, it's the best thing ever. You really think that? Every day a new product that you must try. That ain't suspicious? Start asking questions and say, you know what? You like a lot of stuff. Like, didn't even pop up. Didn't think it was suspicious that Starbucks sells a new cup allegedly what seems like almost every 2 weeks. That's not suspicious at all. And all of them are must-haves and extremely viral on TikTok. Nothing suspicious about it. Not suspicious that they run out of products of these quote-unquote viral things that everybody must have. And then, oh my gosh, we're gonna see videos of people being mad they didn't get it, maybe to get more people to say, you know what, next time I'm gonna be there because everybody likes this thing. FOMO. You don't think some of this stuff is suspicious? Great business. Great for business. But personally, you as a person, when you go to bed at night, you don't lay down and think, that was interesting. Why did that happen? It's the not questioning stuff ever that's dangerous. Not questioning the motives. Never doing it.
It's like critical understanding of literacy and being able to pick out like motivation and propaganda, as well as actual internet safety to stop you from, getting in trouble, from getting hurt, or from buying things you don't need. Those are skills that are suddenly miraculously not taught in schools anymore. And with those complete and utter lack of skills, suddenly all the videos about how people didn't think that fruit off of trees was edible, or thought that Mount Everest was in the United States. That makes a lot more sense. It's depressing as but it makes sense.
And speaking of being resourceful, this is from instructure.com. And it states here, based on our national workforce in higher education survey conducted in partnership with the Harris Poll, this report offers trends and insights into workforce readiness, digital literacy, and generational change shaping the future of learning and work. Well, I thought this was very interesting because this is exactly what we're talking about here. And it goes on to state in this article, a workforce at a crossroads. Many workers feel unprepared for the pace of change. The State of Learning and Readiness report from Infrastructure finds that 70% of U.S. workers don't feel ready to succeed as technology, AI, and shifting career paths reshape the world of work. But it goes on to give them some credit by saying, yet the desire to grow has never been stronger and people are eager to learn, upskill, and adapt, and that the readiness gap is both challenging and an opportunity. And it goes on to show that the four major pillars are digital literacy and technology, agility, continuous skills development, adaptability and career mobility, and growth mindset and future ready thinking. And going on to talk about being resourceful, I actually read this, y'all. I do this a lot in my videos. These are resources, and it comes with understanding how to use the computer, the internet, and things like that. And I only say that to encourage you all, but it actually goes on to state here that this survey was conducted online within the United States by the Harris Poll on behalf of Infrastructure from April 23rd to the 25th in 2025. So this is relatively recent. This is a recent poll. Very interesting. But I want to know what y'all think about all this down below. Do you think that we have a digital literacy or digital illiteracy issue with Gen Alpha and or Gen Z? Do you think they really don't know how to use computers? Do you think they're only good at apps? Teachers, please comment down below because I'm so interested to know what y'all think. And parents, do your kids know how to use Google Suites at all? Microsoft? Any of that stuff? An Excel spreadsheet? And after seeing this video, are y'all prepared to teach them or are y'all lost too? But I gotta know because this is interesting. We gotta start making better decisions today in order to have a better future.